So basically, you're just kind of mining me for information and then deciding who you're going to pick.
Yes. Test. Kappa, 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Kappa!
Well, welcome, Zealand football extraordinaire, to to my little World Cup preview thing.
Thank you.
How was that for an introduction?
That was that was beautiful. It's an absolute honor to be here.
Yeah, so Zealand will help me figure out the power levels of these countries. So Group A is featuring the host nation Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and the favorites to advance out of the group, the Netherlands. I'm going to stick with that. I think the Netherlands are going to be advancing out of this group first, and I think probably Ecuador will be the runner-up out of this group. Is there any country that you'd like to start with specifically?
We can just go in order.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so then
Awesome.
I suppose first country out then would be the host nation, Group A, Qatar.
It's their first World Cup. It's the only one making their debut.
Right.
And they're the first team to debut in a World Cup that they're hosting since Italy in 1938. I promise they're better than you'd think. Like, they won the last Asian Cup. They beat Japan. They beat South Korea in the same tournament. It's like the same 17 guys. They've done a really good job of developing like a cohesive unit. And they do have one legitimate star. His name's Almoez Ali. At the Asian Cup, he scored 9 goals. In previous World Cup qualifying, he's been really good.
So Qatar might not be as bad as at least I initially thought them, but the question is still, are they going to pick any game off of Netherlands, Senegal, or Ecuador?
I think a lot of people assume that they would show up and lose like 5-0 in every game. That's not going to happen. They almost made the World Cup without hosting like 4 different times. They're not a pushover, but they're probably not going to get out of the group.
Would you say playing at quote-unquote home is any advantage when it's the World Cup, or does it not matter at that point?
I don't know if it's going to be an advantage at all. Right?
Yeah.
Qatar is a state that was created in the last 50, 60 years. It was a colonial state under the UK that got independence eventually. It doesn't have that kind of historical identity. You know, their national team's a bunch of guys that were born other places that grew up in Qatar. So I don't think it'll be an advantage at all, really. No.
Let's move on to the next country, which would be Ecuador. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Forgive my Swinglish.
It's Ecuador. I think
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm as white as can be, but I grew up in Florida, so I at least have to pass sometimes. Ecuador's fun. They're the surprise team out of South America. They're not supposed to be as good as they are.
There's one name that I recognize, I think, at least if it's him. Estupinian. Is that the guy that plays in Brighton?
Yeah, Purvis Estupinian. He's that fullback. They have a few guys, but the bulk of their team is made up by this kind of collection of road-weary mercenaries in Europe and dudes that play in the Western Hemisphere. I think a lot of people would not have picked them to make this World Cup, but they made it anyways, and so that makes it dicey. Ecuador is definitely better than Qatar. Qatar hasn't been on the field against the Netherlands ever. Right, they've never been on the field against a team that good. Ecuador plays Brazil and Argentina. Like, they play the best teams all the time. So they're not afraid of it, and they're tougher because of it, usually. And so Ecuador is going to be a tough out, even if they're not a great team.
How about Senegal, our third team in this group? What's the status with, I know Mane was injured.
He's going to play, allegedly.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's one of those things where you're like, is he going to play and be Sadio Mane, or is he going to play and be a heroic substitute that can run 5 minutes before his hamstring gives out again, right? Like, I don't know. If he can't play, they're in trouble because their top layer is really good. So this is the third ever World Cup Senegal has made, but they're also the reigning African champions. If Mane's not able to go, they're in trouble. If he is able to go and he's fully fit, they have enough quality on the top layer of their team to legitimately win this group.
Interesting. Let's go to our final fourth country then. The Netherlands. Me, even as a casual World Cup follower, knows that they are a force to be reckoned with.
They are. They're back, too. They missed the last World Cup, so they're one of those teams that's on a revenge tour. And they got such a... if you are in Pot 2, the team you are begging to play against is the host in Pot A, right? Like in Group A, because then you get a really easy draw. So the Dutch got a fabulous draw. I'm sure when I saw this group draw, and I went, okay, if you're Dutch, you can't completely exhale, because I ranked each pot, basically, before the draw. Ecuador was the best team in pot 4, and Senegal was the top 2 team in pot 3. So this group became really hard, and if I was Dutch, I'd be really annoyed by that.
If I had to pick the country I think will advance most guaranteed out of this group, it would probably be Netherlands.
It's the right thing to think, but it is possible for the Dutch and Qatar to draw.
Yeah.
That is within the realm of possibility. None of these games are as easy as it seems. You've got 2 teams that are the reigning champions of their continents, and there are only so many continents. They're very reliant on Memphis Depay, who's the guy at Barcelona. If he doesn't score, they don't have a lot of other star forwards. It's all defense.
Group B is featuring a very strong-looking English team, Iran, the United States, and finally Wales. I think England definitely should and will advance first out of this group. And after that, it's sort of anyone's game, but I'm going to give the runner-up position to the United States. Let's go to Group B, which is, I'm sure, the group you, as an American, is the most excited about. But let's start with England, of course, our first squad. Me being a very big Premier League fan, I recognize a lot of these names from the English squad, obviously.
There's no reason England can't win this tournament. The only reason they can't is because they're English, and that there's just some innate reason that they can't win any tournament ever. They have so much talent. There's no reason they shouldn't win this unless it's from the pressure they put on themselves. Which, compared to Iran is a mysterious team.
Okay.
Because not a lot of these guys, and you'll run into these teams at the World Cup, particularly out of Asia. Not a lot of these guys play outside of the Middle East. But they do have a dangerous strike partnership.
Okay.
And that Sardar Azmoun is very good. When I was starting to follow the international game 1 or 2 World Cup qualifying cycles ago, they called him the Iranian Messi. It was back when they would call the best player on any national team the blank Messi. But Sardar Azmoun was the Iranian Messi, and he beats his own drum, and they did almost knock Portugal out of the World Cup 4 years ago. If they feel comfortable enough to put Azmoun and Taremi really far up the field, then yeah. Because those guys have the quality and the confidence to match up against, anybody in the world.
Let's move on to what I'm going to assume is your favorite, the United States of America.
It's the best U.S. team that's ever existed. The U.S. didn't used to have a bunch of players in Europe. Before 1994, the U.S. had like a 30-year run where it didn't make the World Cup.
Yeah.
And so now the U.S., we all play FIFA over here, and a few esteemed people play Football Manager. And it's turned into a generation of players that are very good, that have gone to Europe and made it on top teams, from Dortmund to Chelsea to Juventus to Barcelona.
I was going to say the big name that I recognize here, I guess, would be Christian Pulisic.
He's the talisman. He's Captain America. But there are high expectations for the U.S. because of that talent level. Like, you can look at the U.S. and think about, instead of them being like Iran, where you go, oh, they have 1 or 2 guys, but the rest of the team is a mystery. It's, the whole starting 11 plays at a high level.
I do sincerely hope that the U.S. makes it far in this World Cup, because I'd love for Americans to care more about football rather than their own football or the baseball or what other shenanigans you guys have.
People always underestimate how much the U.S. cares about soccer. It's just the knowledge is different. Like, it's just institutional knowledge. Like, they care.
It's going to be really interesting to see if the U.S. advances far. I think that's really going to light a fire under people's asses.
Yeah, and we're hosting the World Cup 4 years from now. I think that's also going to be huge.
Our final team in Group B is Wales, which I think, I don't remember too much from the qualifiers, but I think they only narrowly made it through.
They did. This has been coming for a while. Wales, who last went to a World Cup in 1956, has just started to be relevant again probably 5 or 6 years ago. They still have Gareth Bale, but he's old now. In spite of the fact that he's old, he scored all of their goals in the World Cup qualifying playoff. How do I talk about Wales? They are competitive, and they are strong, and they have a system, and they know exactly what they're going to do, and it is feed the ball to Gareth Bale and play defense and hit people. I mean, they put 5 defenders back there, and those guys are big. Like, they are the Welsh rugby team light.
So they might pull off like a couple of surprise draws or something.
Yes, exactly. I can totally see them pulling a 0-0 with England or something. And that's what they hang their hat on, right?
Right. All right, exciting. So I'm going to assume that your favorite to advance from Group B is England.
Yeah, I picked England and the U.S. I think that it will be an ugly group. I think there are going to be draws. The U.S. also struggles to score. Although, if we beat England, I'm going to absolutely lose my mind. That's going to be the best day of my life.
Group C is featuring Argentina. They are favorites to win the whole thing. Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. I think it's not going to surprise anyone that Argentina is my pick for the winner out of this group. And as the runner-up, I think it's a toss-up between Mexico and Poland, but I'm going to back Poland to be the runner-ups out of the group. Polska górą. Let's go to Group C. I'll start with Argentina, which I did see that FIFA did their World Cup simulation and landed on Argentina to win the whole thing. See that?
I did. I heard about that. It's not surprising either. They are very good. The Argentina's always good. They're very good now.
Right.
They've got a new generation of guys coming through around Lionel Messi. They've won the Copa America for the first time since 1986, which is a South American championship. And they qualified without losing, which has only happened twice in South American qualifying history. They're one of my favorites to win the whole thing. They might be the third best team in this whole tournament. And as such, should dispatch Group C easily.
Saudi Arabia, second country in Group C. Well, I'm gonna see if I know anyone from this squad.
I would put a lot of money on you, don't. That would be my bet.
You would win. I don't recognize any of these names.
Yep, and that is because they all play in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi League has a ton of money in it, and so there is no real inclination or reason for them to leave.
Under their like players to watch on this site, they put the goalkeeper of the team, which I feel like is not a good sign.
It's not a good sign. No, they have Al Muwallad. They have a couple of guys that have kind of made their name as the stars of the team. The Saudi style of play is very technical and flair oriented.
Okay, let's go to Mexico, country number 3 in the Group C.
I'm gonna hit you with a fact. The Mexican team has the craziest streak in World Cup history. They have made the round of 16 and then lost for 7 straight World Cups.
I feel like they might be on track to do it again this year. Would you agree?
Yeah, Poland is a perpetual choker at national tournaments, and Mexico just seems to be able to produce a team that just reaches the exact same level. It's hard to explain what could lead you to just be that consistently slightly above average.
This feels very familiar to hear as a Swedish football fan. I feel like we're roughly, not anymore. We even fell off from that, but we used to be on that level, basically.
Yeah, that's where Mexico is. They exist essentially in a world of their own. They are going to go out there and probably beat Saudi Arabia, maybe draw Argentina, maybe win or draw against Poland, get out of the group, and then lose to France. And that's like what they're going to do. And really, I'm happy for them. I hope they enjoy the ride.
And then, of course, final country in Group C, the country that knocked out my country. The final game, Poland. I do have a lot of Polish viewers actually that might be very curious to see what your take is on them. Obviously, Poland has got Lewandowski.
Yes, they have their superstar, one of the best players in the world, Lewandowski. The issue for them generally is their defense, and when you talk to Polish people, that is what they will tell you, is that our defense isn't really that bad. I think Poland, for being a huge nation that loves the sport, actually has a shallow national pool. The deeper you look at their team, they have guys that play in pretty small leagues. They've got MLS players at forward and these sorts of things. So they are also one of those teams that's an injury away from being in trouble. But anytime you have Lewandowski, you have a chance.
Group D has 2 very, very strong teams in France and Denmark, and 2 quite weak teams in Australia and Tunisia. Even though I am half Tunisian, it does pain me to admit that I don't think they will be making it out of this group. I think France are probably the favorites and most likely to advance in the number 1 position out of this group, and Denmark as the runners up, but I can definitely see Denmark even winning this group. They are looking very, very strong this year.
Denmark was the first team from Europe to qualify, more so than any other team.
I remember
they
that.
won
Way ahead.
They won their first 9 games. And this group is so split. Like, there is a full mile between Denmark and Tunisia, who's probably the second best, like the third best team in this group. I would be stunned, like actually stunned, if either Denmark or France failed to get out of this group.
I don't know if I told you, but I'm half Tunisian, so that was like my backup country to root
for. Well, look, Tunisia does more with less.
Okay.
I titled my video about Tunisia, the most consistent team in Africa. The problem is France and Denmark can go out and beat you at the highest level. Tunisia makes you beat them. So, and France and Denmark probably should be able to beat them. And Tunisia probably will be able to beat Australia because Australia is terrible. They're bad. They papered over the fact that they are not good. And then they show up at the World Cup for their 5th consecutive World Cup appearance, walking in like they own the place. And I've talked to Australians and I'm like, they know they're not good either. And so Australia and Tunisia are going to have fun with themselves down on the bottom of the group. And then Denmark, who's my dark horse pick to win the whole thing. Like, if there's one team that's never won it before that could win it, it's Denmark. Like, nobody wins 9 games in a row in European qualifying. They made the semifinals of the Euros too. Denmark is clearly as good as they've ever been. This, more so than any other group, I would be shocked if France or Denmark didn't make it out.
Group E is featuring Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan. And on the surface, this seems like a somewhat easy pick with Spain and Germany as the favorites to advance. But I think there's definitely room for an upset in this group, and either Spain or Germany failing to make it through wouldn't completely surprise me. Nonetheless, I have to go with what I think is the most likely, and I do think that is probably going to be Spain winning the group and Germany as the runner-up.
This group, to me, is sneaky difficult.
Okay.
For Germany and Spain, because Germany and Spain are mirror images of each other. They both kind of suck right now. More than they have in a long time. Germany and Spain are not lead favorites for this tournament. Neither one is. They managed to handle their qualifying groups easy enough, but neither one of them had a particularly stern challenge in their qualifying groups. Germany kind of flamed out. Spain struggled in their group. They struggled with Iran back in the last World Cup. So I think they're vulnerable, and they're vulnerable to both of these teams because Japan has talent. The player you need to watch out for is Daichi Kamada. He is the danger man for this team. He is very good. And they have guys around him that can help. So they're dangerous. And then Costa Rica, wild card. They really sucked in the first half of qualifying. So see if you can figure this out for me. So CONCACAF qualifying, the final round was 14 games this year. It's 8 teams. You play every other team twice. So they played their first 7 games, which means they played everybody else in the group. And they won 1 of them. In the second round of matches, they won 6 of the 7, and the 7th was a draw. They were the best team. They beat the US 2-0. This group is set up for either Germany or Spain. Whoever wants to just kind of suck it up at this tournament, the opportunity is there.
Yeah.
Like, Costa Rica and Japan will give you opportunities to lose.
Group F is featuring Belgium, a very exciting looking Canadian team, Morocco, and finally Croatia. Now, this is a group where I feel like anything can happen, even though Belgium, of course, is the clear favorite out of this group. They are an aging squad, and I think a team like Canada is looking very, very spicy and eager to impress this year. Will that be enough to actually make it out of the group? I am not sure. I truly hope that Canada makes it out, but I'm gonna go ahead and predict Belgium winning this group and Croatia as the runner-up. Didn't Canada have like an amazing run of games leading up to the World Cup?
Yeah, Canada won CONCACAF qualifying. Canada came out of absolutely nowhere. It's this team of like misfit toys. Their captain is 39. He plays in Turkey. His name is Atiba Hutchinson. Their whole back line's MLS. Their goalkeeper plays in Serbia. Like, these guys just, I don't know. But if they keep that form going, why not?
I don't know if you agree with this, but the group isn't that powerful of a group or like that difficult compared to some of the other ones. Like obviously Belgium, very strong country, but would you say maybe they are like, their players are starting to get somewhat old, right? A lot of the players.
It's their defense. They're going to roll out Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen as their center backs, I think, and they're 33 and 35. But, they've got arguably the best goalkeeper in the world in Thibaut Courtois. So if you do get through them, you still have to get by him. But
right.
They are thin and they are old. But they have held the band together for one more go at the World Cup. They're very consistent in group stages historically, where Croatia is the interesting one because they made the final 4 years ago. I don't really know what direction to go with them because they're missing some guys, but they have quality. Like if you pull up the Croatian roster, the teams you will see that these guys play for. I mean, they're all in the top 5 leagues.
How do they stack up against Morocco?
Morocco was the most comfortable qualifier out of Africa for this World Cup. They walked into the World Cup out of Africa, which is not easy to do. On paper, very capable of troubling Belgium and Croatia. And blitzing Canada if they get it right.
Group G is featuring a very, very strong-looking Brazilian team, Serbia, Switzerland, and finally Cameroon. Shouldn't surprise anyone that I'm picking Brazil as my favorite to advance out of this group, and the runner-up I think is going to be Switzerland.
I'll tell you one thing, Cameroon has had really good teams in the past. They're not good. They are not good this time.
Interesting.
They stunned Algeria to get to this tournament. It was 1-1 on aggregate in Algeria, and in the 4th minute of added time, Cameroon scored. Serbia and Switzerland hate each other. And so this is going to be a fun...
I was not aware they hate each other.
Well, Yugoslavia breaking up was not fun for anybody involved. And a lot of refugees from that crisis in Yugoslavia moved to Switzerland. And as would happen, the kids or the very young children that made that move at that time, so either the kids of the refugees or the actual kids that made the migration, are in the Swiss team. And so there's a lot of animosity. It boiled over at the World Cup 4 years ago. Oh yeah, and Brazil's here. They're going to win all 3 games. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Brazil is stupid good. They're my favorite for the tournament. You pull up the team and it's a who's who of guys from the best teams in the world. Yeah. And I know it always is, but they've been in bad form the last couple tournaments. That seems to be over. Brazil's fine. They're going to be in like the semifinals of this tournament, waiting for everybody else to show up.
Group H is featuring Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. I think this is a pretty difficult group to predict. I'm not sure what's going to happen in this group, but I would have to assume that Portugal and Uruguay are the teams to make it out of this group. I'm going to go ahead and predict Uruguay as the winners of the group and Portugal as the runner-up.
I think that it's important to note that Ghana would have been in the same boat as Cameroon, but they've been on a recruiting spree. So Ghana's got the advantage of a really good diaspora. So there's a pipeline of kind of immigration. So they recruited some good players, and that makes Ghana dangerous. But because those players have never played for them, you don't know how they're going to be integrated or how well the team's going to come together.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't be as bad as they were in qualifying, and that's, of course, relative because they did make it. Uruguay's old. Everybody knows that. Their hopes are on Federico Valverde, who's the Real Madrid midfielder, see if he can be the next superstar because Luis Suarez and Cavani are not there. And they have Darwin Nunez, of course. We'll see how much time he gets. And then South Korea's got Son. But the problem for South Korea is that more than half their team is in the K-League. And so how good are they going to be really? They have 14 of their 26 players who are in the K-League. I just have a hard time backing a team that has so much domestic talent from a league that isn't a top 5 league.
Okay, finally, let's hear it. Give me your top 3 of the entire World Cup to basically win the whole thing.
Thank you. I would be surprised. Thank you for not making it 4 because I don't know the 4th. Right. I would be surprised if it wasn't Brazil, France, or Argentina that won this World Cup.
And what is your unbiased opinion on how far does the United States make it?
Round of 16. I think we get there and lose to the Netherlands. If you follow the script of the group next to us, I think we get out of the group, we finish 2nd, and then we lose to the Netherlands.
With my group predictions out of the way, this is what my bracket would look like. In the round of 16, I think that the Netherlands will defeat the United States. Argentina will beat Denmark. I think that Croatia might actually beat Spain. And Brazil should be able to beat Portugal. England will defeat Ecuador, and I think that France will beat Poland. Belgium will defeat Germany, and I think that Switzerland will defeat Uruguay. In the quarterfinals, Argentina will defeat the Netherlands, and I think that Brazil will defeat Croatia. In a meeting of England versus France, I am going to back England to actually come out on top. Even though France is looking very, very strong, I just like the look of the English squad, and I think they're playing a very safe football that just makes me want to back them. So I'm going to pick England as the winner. And between Belgium and Switzerland, I am going to back Belgium, even though it's very, very close. And Switzerland is a team that I enjoy watching play, and besides, their flag is a very big plus as well. It's possible I got my bracket incorrect, but at some point, most likely Argentina will meet Brazil, be it in the semifinals or maybe in the finals. It's very, very difficult to pick the winning team out of these two amazing football nations. But I am going to be backing Argentina as the winner. Between England and Belgium, man, my bracket is going to end up having England in the finals, because that's where I'm going, I think. I'm starting to feel like I might have put too much faith into the English national team, but between England and Belgium, I sort of just have to pick England as the winners, which would actually, in my bracket, give us a finals of Argentina versus England, where I will quite comfortably pick Argentina as the winner of the whole thing. And between Brazil and Belgium, I would definitely pick Brazil to win, giving me Argentina as the winners of the World Cup, England as the second place country, and Brazil as number 3. However, if I were to actually rate these countries in order of strength, I would put Brazil ahead of England. So there you have it. If we disregard the brackets and the group matches for just a bit, if you simply want me to pick the top 3 countries, I think in the third spot, we are going to be finding either France or England. In the second position, Brazil, and finally at the number 1 position, Argentina. I just think that the Argentinian team seems to be playing on a level worthy of a world champion trophy. And I think the Brazilian team looks absolutely phenomenal as well. But alas, there can only be one winner. Do you agree or do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. And thanks for watching this very special Nymn video.